This is the new Xcelsior model from New Flyer, and this bus makes extensive use of modern clean design. So for example, this door is about 2 inches wider than the door in the previous version. Makes getting on and off the bus easier and faster. We use LED lighting extensively on these buses. It's cheaper to run and longer lasting. This bus has one of the industry's first electronic instrument panels, which makes the life of the driver much easier, and a very clean and simple layout of all the controls by the driver's side and in front of him. This bus also has a feature called New Flyer Connect that allows the driver to monitor his fuel economy just by observing lights here, and can save the operator of the bus in fuel further from beyond the natural fuel economy of the vehicle itself. Moving further back, the width of the vestibule here is wider than any previous version of the bus, and again makes use of LED lighting. Moving further back in the bus, we see a large number of stanchions, large number of handholds for passengers overhead and to the side to make it easier for passengers to hang on. We use LED lighting in long single strips to provide even light to passengers and to provide low maintenance cost for the operators. These lights use much less power and are much longer lasting than previous versions. Overhead we have the air conditioning system up near the front of the bus. This provides better air conditioning to the driver because the cold air doesn't have to come all the way from the back of the bus. And another benefit of that is you get a back window in the back of the bus. Moving further back, we have a clean step area up to the top of the up to the upper deck. Up here you can see there's plenty of headroom above me. I'm about 5'10", so there's about 6'4" of headroom here, and that goes all the way to the back, where even at the very back row, a passenger can stand up without bumping his head. In addition, we've pushed the lights out in this upper deck, so a passenger sitting down in the window seat doesn't bump his head when he stands up, as happens on many other buses. So we've taken a lot of steps to improve the interior features of the bus. There are a number of steps we've taken on the outside and in the engine compartment as well to enhance this vehicle.
And you were saying this is a lighter bus.
In this bus we optimized the chassis to be about 10% lighter than the previous versions. Of course, a lot of the things that get bolted on the chassis have to be there, engines and transmissions and so on, and axles, brakes, all of those things have to stay the same, but we optimized the chassis and we were able to take about 10% of the weight out of the bus overall, which drives better fuel economy.
And this bus is not quite what a Montreal bus would look like if you get the contract with the STM.
That's right. The Montreal spec calls for less padding on the seats. The Montreal spec calls for an exit door here, which of course would take away a couple of rows of seats. And there are a number of technical differences in the Montreal spec as well. The Montreal spec is something you don't see, also calls for stainless steel for the chassis of the bus, and we would build the buses for Montreal in stainless steel.
And why does Montreal not want padding on the seats? You'd think they'd want it to be more comfortable.
Well, in an application like Montreal, within an urban environment, people get on and off the bus much more frequently, and the typical length of ride is much shorter than in a sort of a suburb kind of service as the Sorel buses provide. And
you wouldn't have 2 rows of 2 seats each, typically?
That's up to Montreal or the other providers. Every agency sets up their seating slightly differently, but sometimes they want more standees or more seats.
Okay, and what about air conditioning? Is that one of the requirements?
It is.
So the new, there'll be hybrids. Can you tell us actually a bit about what the contract is for and what they asked for specifically?
Sure. The contract is calling for a 40-foot diesel hybrid bus. So it's powered by a series hybrid system, and that's to drive better fuel economy again, another step up in fuel economy.
Okay. And we're talking about up to 1,100 buses.
Up to 1,100 buses, that's right.
And the one of the things I hear a lot is that Montreal buses tend to be loud. Have you somehow made the bus quieter?
We've taken a number of steps to make the bus quieter. Montreal has a spec which calls for a certain level of sound, which we will certainly meet. The hybrid system itself enables use of a smaller diesel engine, and because the bus is really driven by the electric motors, you are able to avoid a lot of areas where noise is made in a transit bus.
So how much quieter would it be? Is it possible to quantify that?
That's a tricky thing to quantify. Montreal set their spec fairly aggressively in terms of the noise, and there are different parameters of noise: interior noise, exterior noise at idle, exterior noise when the bus pulls away, and so on. And we are able to meet all of their specs.
How much quieter is a hybrid bus? And when, kind of during a trip, is it quieter?
What we learn from customers and passengers is that the biggest concern is when the bus pulls away from the curb. That's when the noise is most disturbing. Of course, a bus makes a certain amount of noise as it's passing by on the street, but that's not as disturbing to people as when they're standing on the sidewalk next to the bus and there's this gigantic sound coming. So these hybrid buses tend to use the electric power as the bus pulls away, and then the diesel engine kind of cuts in after the bus is already moving.
So it's quieter when it's at the stop.
That's right.
Okay. And can you talk a bit about your relationship with Girardin and what they'll do if you get the contract?
Sure. Our alliance with Girardin calls for them to be our eyes and ears, effectively, with the customer. So we at New Flyer will manufacture the bus in Winnipeg, and then Girardin will provide the local pre-delivery inspection services. They'll provide the training to the users here in Quebec. They'll be our parts depot here in Quebec, and they will provide service advice as well, and any kind of troubleshooting activities that need to go on.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're most welcome.